Hello everybody, it's Just Three Bullets with Maya,
Dana,
and Dee.
Today we present our very special guest, Giovanni Luigi Bordone, who is a course leader in MA Marketing, senior lecturer in Marketing and Creative Enterprise, and 2021 October UEL Alumni of the Month. Giovanni is an academic with more than 15 years of experience in a collaborate fashion business. He also has 5 years of experience teaching in more than 20 countries across Asia, Pacific, Europe, and Middle East. First of all, thank you for being with us today, Giovanni. Last episode, we talked about imposter syndrome. So just to circle back to it quickly, what is your most memorable moment when imposter syndrome influenced your professional life?
Okay, so I do have to be very honest with you. Very rarely I had this imposter syndrome. So in my professional life, rarely I had moments in which I feel this imposter syndrome. So I've been, thanks God, always very secure about myself. So I very much professionally never had it. In my personal life, I had it several times. And it's every time when it's related to identity. What do I mean by that is... I'm British and Italian, right? So I'm born and bred Italian, as you might have imagined from my accent, and then I became British, 7-8 years ago. And I was invited to a political discussion, and I was representing one of the major party here in the UK. And going in stage and talk about British politics in front of an audience, having an Italian background, that really made me feel like an imposter. The same thing, it might sound very stupid, when I do support football. For example, now there is the World Cup. Italy is not qualified, therefore I support England. And if I'm out in a pub, if I do feel the imposter syndrome, it's like I feel like people think it's like, why is he supporting England, being an Italian? So in this kind of situation, I do feel it. Elsewhere, professional-wise, not really.
So, as a part of minority taking into consideration your background, have you ever felt excluded during your uni days or your professional environment?
So no, I have never felt excluded into my workplace or being university. One of the reasons probably is because I've studied fashion and work in the university as a fashion lecturer. Therefore, my the fact that I come from a minority, but is a minority in which is very relevant within the fashion business, right? So I was lucky enough, again, never to be felt behind, or I never had any feeling about those. I have sometimes in my other job as a public servant, I sometimes have the feeling of maybe not belonging, again, because I was born and bred in Italy. So in certain position within the public sector, sometimes I do have the feeling, but the feeling is a personal thing. It's not the institution that they're not trying to involve me, but it's a very personal feeling of perhaps not belonging, but nothing to do with the British institution, that at every point they're trying to involve me and take me on board. So it's a personal thing, not so much coming from the employer side.
Next question then. Why do you think inclusivity is important in the fashion industry?
Inclusivity is absolutely important in fashion. It's important in every industry, but especially in fashion, because at the end of the story, fashion is something that is cross-cultural, cross-country, cross-continent, cross-culture. So it's all around. So to have a diversity, it's absolutely important. The only thing that I want to stress is this, that diversity models or in people a certain level of a brand, yes, we achieve that because the companies, they want to sell more. So enlarging the model diversity pool is the most obvious thing. But I want to see more diversity within the board of directors, where everybody is over 50 and Caucasian, and male. So this is where the real diversity should showcase, not so much in within the models that obviously they are already very diverse.
Okay, so since we're speaking about diversity, in your opinion, like how well do you think the fashion industry is currently performing when it comes to intersectionality?
So in terms of intersectionality, I think the fashion is doing very well, much better than other industries. People working in fashion come from every single background, very different areas. So I think it's doing very, very well, even though obviously people living within metropolitan areas are probably more inclined to go into fashion compared to people living in a rural area, statistical. But this is not important. The important fact is that it is extremely well placed within intersectionality. Intersectionality is terrible, for example, in financial services or in banking of very high level, private equity banking, merger and acquisition. So this very high paid job in which obviously people getting this job are people coming from a certain university with a certain background, with a certain family behind them. So I think in intersectionality terms, we are in a much better position. So very, very positive. The industry to become more inclusive. It's probably from the top. So the directive from the tops. Brands, they are more inclusive. In a long term, they better perform. They have a plurality of views. So it's definitely a much better place to be.
Well, what steps do you think we need to take to transform such a, huge industry into one that's far more inclusive than it currently is?
In terms of inclusion and diversity, we are in a good position in the UK. We are not as a good position if you are, for example, a Milan brand, an Italian brand based in Milan. And the reason is just because the society is not as diverse. So it's hard if you want to, to recruit people with a different background. So why is it the UK and the US are leading in that? Especially Italian and French companies are a little bit behind.
So, what brands and companies do you think would actually be like an industry standard, like who we as consumers and, who other companies should follow as an example for, being inclusive and diverse?
In terms of diversity, I think all these new brands, for example, Pangaia, or even brands that personally I dislike because they are doing a lot of damage to the environment and to people, such as Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo. Those are brands that are extremely diverse to the, probably that's why Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they really like them because they are really diverse. So this new breed of brands, they are genetically diverse, so they have a huge step ahead compared to companies like Prada or Louis Vuitton or Chanel, where you need to bring diversity into the company. Other brands, they are already in their DNA.
So it's actually very funny that Dee asked that question because I know that she has a very strong opinion about this topic. So I was thinking it would be a nice addition if she would also share with us her insight. So over to you, Dee.
When it comes to intersectionality, it's like I definitely think we're trying. We're really really trying in this industry. There are people behind the scenes in the boardroom, behind the camera, that are, they really are trying to fight for the little guy, the overlooked. But and even those of us that are minorities that get in there, we're fighting to prove our worth. Even if it's not speaking about imposter syndrome, just the way of the world, like showing the world what we're worth, so that we can be seen as capable of surviving and thriving in these environments, but also so we can bring up our equally brilliant people of colleagues of color, marginalized demographics with us, so we can say, hey, like you see I did an amazing job. I'm no different than this white dude who has the same qualifications as me. Like, you should hire more people who look like me. So I think we're definitely trying. Um, it's we still have we have so far to go. Unfortunately, prejudice is just never subside. It's a human evolutionary trait. It's unfortunately just like this weird part of survival that most animals have in us. If a tiger is known for mauling humans, then we've got to be aware that tigers maul humans. While there may be some tigers sitting under a tree that's not worried about us, but if we see a tiger, we're gonna think that it's gonna maul us. So having prejudice is like I said, it is an evolutionary trait, and unfortunately, that travels over into small social interactions and can manifest as microaggressions or you know passive aggressive behavior, and sometimes completely aggressive behavior. So like I said, definitely still have lots of work to do, but I think when you have something working in the prefrontal cortex of your head, you have this idea you're supposed to be inclusive, you're supposed to be diverse and things like that. It just makes you check yourself on a regular basis. And so I think that's what we have going on in the industry right now. People are just checking themselves, even if it isn't because they want to be inclusive, it's because they know they have to be. Marketeers all over the world, big and small, are starting to realize that it's something that has to be organic. People are tired of seeing every, a black girl, a brown guy, someone in a wheelchair. Like, they're tired of seeing those ad campaigns that look really forced. So I think people are realizing like it really does have to be genuine. Even when it comes to like the Balenciaga campaign that just came out, we're just not considering all sides of the story. Adults are making these campaigns, and that have adult issues, have adult topics, but they're involving children. And it's like, they've made this ad that's extremely inappropriate for children. And it's like, not saying that there needs to be children in the boardroom, but why aren't we considering all sides of storytelling when we're telling these stories? You know what I mean? Like, it's starting to hurt brands, and it's hurting viewers in the process.
Okay, let's go back to our questions, Dana.
Going back to University of East London, what do you think? University of East London is doing right that it attracts so many students with different backgrounds, disabilities, cultures, etc. What makes it so diverse?
Going back to the to UEL, I think for historical reason, because it was in East London. It started as a very diverse culture, university culture. So a little bit of obviously geographical position and the fact that it does have an historical track of accepting people with different background and disabilities and cultures. So yes, UEL is one of the most diverse university in the UK, I suspect. And when we do the alumni meeting, it's an incredible, beautiful, diverse bunch of people. So definitely a good place to be.
And lastly, do you have any piece of advice for prospective students while choosing a university?
Probably the best thing to choose a university is to do your research. This to me is absolutely obvious, right? So for my PhD or my master's, I need to check in university. So what is the entry requirement? What interests me? How much is the fee? Is there any sponsorship? There's a lot of elements to consider. These elements need to be considered because when you choose university, it's a huge step, because universities within them, they have cultures very, very different, locations, courses, modus operandi. So it's absolutely fundamental that the students need to do hell a lot of research, even because it will be the next 3 years of your life. So choose the right university is absolutely fundamental.
And that's all, folks, for today. So 3 bullets are saying bye with Maya,
Dana,
Andy.
and stay tuned, because next Wednesday at 5 we are gonna be back with you with our next episode about diversity. Bye.